Hi everyone, welcome to Brush Up on Business, presented by Oral Health Group, a special Brush Up podcast series focused on the business of dentistry. I'm Dr. Jordan Soll, Chairman of Oral Health's Editorial Board, and today I'm joined by Dr. Carlo Biasucci. Dr. Biasucci is a Canadian dentist, author, and practice consultant. He founded Northern Dental Care in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario in January 2009 with the guiding philosophy of friends helping friends. To further his training, he completed the core curriculum at Las Vegas Institute for Advanced Dental Studies and has taken advanced courses in conscious sedation, implant dentistry, and orthodontics. In addition to clinical work, Dr. Biasucci is also a speaker, business educator, and consultant to other dentists. He is the founder and CEO of Elite Practice, a training and growth solutions organization serving dentists in Canada and the United States. He's authored multiple books and more than 200 articles covering dentistry and professional practice topics. Welcome, Dr. Biasucci.
Thanks for having me, Jordan.
And before we jump in the essence of transparency, I'd like to say that I am a full freight paying client of Elite Practice, and it's my journey through the Elite Practice curriculum that being so happy and impressed, I invited Dr. Biasucci to have a chat with us today. So again, welcome. And I want to jump in right away and start talking about the concept for this series today is building your dream team, the automatic training system. So the first question I want to ask you is, what are the main drawbacks of the traditional tribal training approach to dental offices?
Okay, so good question. The typical way that we onboard a team member into a practice is, so dental practice, as we both well know, is, a typical day becomes very pressure cooker. We're busy. There's not a lot of time to sit back and sort of chat, right? New team member joins, they end up getting plugged into their role fairly quickly and expected to know what they're doing out of the gate. Or, okay, you're a new admin person on our team today, great, you're gonna sit beside Jennifer here, who is our longtime admin, and she'll show you. Between patients, between calls, between other stuff, and this person's super busy already, how is the new person going to learn? Now they're going to learn some things, they'll pick up some things, but it's, whatever that falls off, whatever breadcrumbs they get while the other person is doing their job, and that's the level that they get to. Inevitably, we end up looking at this new team member and saying, oh, they're not quite there. They're not performing as well as we'd like them to at this point. And really, we've done nothing to support them. Whereas if you look at outside of dentistry, and we talked about this in previous episodes, systematic, intentional training for team members, existing and new, to level people up to a place where they need to be. Now when they hit the floor, they are ready to run. So we take a new employee into a practice for our clients. We don't even have them in the office when they've started training already. They get to a place where they're about 70% ready before they even sit down in their role. Now we bring them in and they start working with their team lead or the person that's going to train them up to speed, and they're not dragging that person who's your key person all the way down to their level to try to help them figure out, where do I click on this or that? They're actually at a point where they can run, and they're not a hindrance. They're actually just polishing up now. And so that systematic, intentional training process is what you will see in successful companies.
And so it makes it repeatable.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And so the new person can also go back. If they feel they've missed something, they can go back and they can just brush up on any areas they feel that they need a little extra support in.
Exactly, and that is how our system is designed. So that a person would not just one and done, they would go back and refresh. And then also, as we're keeping statistics, we'll identify, okay, this person needs to be, get back up to speed on this or that, and we can selectively bring them back into the platform and say, okay, we'll train this, or why don't you send this person to our workshop coming up on that, and we'll, provide the pieces strategically to get that person where they need to be, versus just, expecting them to pick it up.
How can the principles of neuroscience and learning science improve staff retention and performance?
Good question. So when we look at adult learning, learning in general, the key really is repetition. And it's taking, for most people, it's taking pen to paper, it's reviewing a thing. In dental school, right? you can't just sit down, hear the lectures, and then go write the exams. I mean, you can do that, you're just not going to get very far. We understand that for a thing to stick, for it to become habit, it needs to be trained, it needs to be trained well, it needs to be retrained. It is not something that can be one and done. And so it's same thing with our teams. We can't just say, well, I told them, one time 2 years ago that this is how I wanted it done. Great, that means absolutely nothing. You have a systematic process for training on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, and then we have quarterly workshops that our clients come to. All of these things are designed to keep in focus the thing that we need to do. And every month there will be a new thing that comes up, a new challenge that is identified that we need to address as a team. We take that and we retrain it. So I'll give you an example. From our practice, there were some things that we constantly retrained. Like, I think every second team meeting, we went through very simple things like how to hand off a patient from one provider to another, especially with new team members. Okay. Because you can break trust very quickly if you don't get that right. People think, well, what's the difference? And there's a huge difference. I've seen this happen, and actually in a practice that I started in, the hygienist would walk the patient halfway down the hallway and say, okay, there's the desk, go ahead and they'll take care of you, and then just let the patient go. Versus what we teach is to take that patient all the way up, stay with them, converse with them, never leave that patient alone when they're in your practice, and take them all the way through to making sure that the value of the next appointment is conferred and so forth, right? So there's a huge gap there that could be closed.
So basically, repetition is the mother of success.
Yeah, exactly.
What tools or technologies can automate training while maintaining personalization? And this is actually a favorite of mine, so I'm interested on what you have to say.
So automated training was a big deal for us because we have this practice of 40 plus people, team members. And again, the example that I gave was, okay, if I bring a new person in and I expect my key person to sit down with them and get them from 0 to 100, how long is that going to take? And I can't spare that key person that much time. Like, I can't spare all of their time, especially when we have turnover constantly happening with a team that size, right? You're always dealing with mat leaves and so forth. How can we get this person up to speed without draining my existing team? What happens if a person joins after we just had the training for this thing? Or we just, we invested time and energy in shutting down the office and doing a whole half day about it, and then the next person comes on and they missed it. Or maybe this person has learned it and they're not quite there yet and we need to retrain that thing. Well, now I'm constantly playing this catch-up game, or I never am able to get them up to speed. Whereas if we had a system where I could say, hey, you know what? You're ready to learn the next thing. Why don't you go and watch that on the platform? Well, the platform for us very simply was a folder on our hard drive where we recorded videos and put them in some category that made sense. And we would say, hey, okay, you're an admin, go in the admin folder, go watch this and learn about it. And then when you're ready to, if you feel comfortable with it, great, go ahead and ask questions, sit with your team leader, and then start doing the thing. And so this concept eventually became what is now our platform. So like the folders on the hard drive was like Elite Practice 1.0 way back. The current model that you see today in the training platform and all of the videos that are produced and the various components and modules, that is what came out of that. And that whole system was designed intentionally to take the burden off the team for training team members so that team members can go and actually learn themselves, to self-educate to a place where they now became ready to take on the next thing. And so we would encourage them. This comes back into how do we encourage our team members to grow versus trying to drag them along. And so this whole process plays together, but that automated system being available to them whenever they are ready to take on the next thing or when we need them to is tremendous, because now I'm not trying to figure out how am I going to get this person there, or I'm carrying a person on my payroll that is not ready to, they're not able to do the thing I need them to do, and now they're more of a hindrance than anything. So yeah, the automated platform is huge for us. Yeah.
It seems or sounds so brilliant because the same, no matter if it's new employee A, B, or C, they are getting the same identical information every single time. Personalities being such, if you have a human trying to train someone. They may say something to A, may forget to tell B. Everybody's getting the same information. There's no excuse.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So with our training platform that we currently have, when teams engage, this is one way that we train our teams, as you know, there's the online platform, which plays along with the live events, which plays along with the coaching that comes from the program advisors. And I mean, I'll tell you, our program advisors, they have to go through that platform. And if they cannot speak contrary to the platform, because if they do, then now we're giving people inconsistent advice. And it's the same thing with if you have team members who are getting different training from different people. Well, that doesn't make any sense. We need to have one standard way of doing it, which gets back to our conversation about systems, right? If the system is clearly delineated and taught in this way, in this place, and we all go back to the same well for the information, then it prevents dilution that happens over time. Because if employee A passes on to employee B passes on to employee C, and onward, by the time I get to employee X, the system is nothing like what we started with.
Right, broken telephone.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I have not read the book. I know about the book, and I'm wondering if you have read the book, The Checklist Manifesto.
Yeah.
And I assume there's certain things that concepts that you took out of there. For our viewers that are not familiar with it, this book called The Checklist Manifesto, when you board a plane and you see the pilot and co-pilot and they actually have a written list and they're going down, not just loosey-goosey. They have a written list and they're checking every single thing. Operating rooms now do this so that no mistakes are made. And they found that when this actual book was read by certain organizations, they implemented it, they found that mishaps greatly got reduced.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that way of thinking, and yes, I like the book. The thing so there's actually a few places we've implemented this. One is on the room setup side. So we talked about how I said originally we had one person who was the only person who could set up for these procedures because they wouldn't miss anything. And then I said the next person who walks down the sidewalk can use the system that we teach today. Well, what's on that system is really a checklist at the core of it. Right. Because here's the thing, if I have new backup assistants, which is a way that we categorize roles within our program, start in our practice. This is one of the onboarding paths. So we onboarded people in our practice as backup assistant or call center. Those are the two ways you can join our practice as a team member, unless they were a hygienist. And when that person starts, what we would notice is that in the absence of a checklist, they would get, if there were 10 things to be set up in the room, they would get 9 right. The one that was missing was never the same one. So you wouldn't know until you were halfway through the procedure, past the thing, oh, it's not there. And that would drive me bananas because now we would have to stop, go find the thing, or we'd have to call out to the person to go get the thing, and there's just no reason for it. So the checklist became actually almost a test of how long this person was going to stick in our office, because one of the training tools, one of the keys was you must fill out the checklist. If it's your 10,000th checklist, you must check the boxes. Why? Because when that one thing out of 10 is missing, and I flip over the sheet and the checklist is checked, then I just say, you got to help me with this. The box is checked, but I can't find it. Can you show me where it is? It's just one of those things. You do that a couple times, even in jest, and they get it. And the ones who just won't do it, well, they won't do it. And those people are, short-lived. But that generally doesn't happen. People want to do a good job. They want to succeed. You're giving them the tools to succeed. They realize, you know what, maybe this checklist thing is right. To this day, up to the last big case that I prepped and seated, I had a checklist, and we never deviated from the checklist. Right. Even as 15 years of experience in doing these things, even after I don't know how many veneer cases and full mouth cases, the checklist. Why? Because if you don't have the checklist, you might miss one thing. It might be 1 out of 50, but that one thing is going to be the thing that's going to be, oh man. And it's often something like taking before pictures. You're like, oh. Come on.
Well, we purposely don't take before pictures. That's how we know a case is going to turn out unbelievably amazing.
That's right.
Okay. So basically, repetition is the mother of success.
Exactly right.
Okay. Why is hiring for attitude, and we've talked about this in the previous one, but again, I want you just to fill in the blanks. Why is hiring for attitude often more effective than hiring for experience in a dental team?
So again, the right attitude creates an adaptable person, or is going to come with an adaptable person, right? So I can teach anyone how to fill out the checklist. The fact that they come with some version of the checklist in their mind already is not terribly helpful to me, because it's a checklist that they have to unlearn and then relearn in my office anyway. What I really want is I want a person who's excellent with people. If they have that skill set, that spark about them, that I can put them in the room with any patient and know that they can strike up a conversation and they're going to make that patient laugh, and that patient is going to have an experience with our team that lifts them up, thrilling. I'm happy. I want that person. If they don't know what box to click in Dentrix to check in or check out a patient, to file insurance, I don't care. I can teach them. In fact, there's a video for that, because we spent like 6 months, almost maybe even a year, documenting all this stuff in our own practice. And that became our internal, and we teach our clients to do this, right? There's a module in clinical efficiency that talks about doing this specifically. So I need a person who already has that skill set for people. The what to do, the very specifics of the nuances of how we deliver the service, I can teach that.
Okay, thank you. And what I also like to ask you is, how can lessons from companies like the Ritz-Carlton or Cheesecake Factory be applied to dental practice culture and training?
Okay, so if you look at industries outside of dentistry, and it extends, throughout the entire hospitality industry, let's say, where this is most commonly found, is there is an extraordinary investment in training, particularly in new hire training, that you just don't see in, like, for example, dental offices. It's just not a thing. We just don't intentionally do it. But if I become an employee with Ritz-Carlton, as an example, I'm going to get 200 hours of training as a first-year employee. Right? That statistic might be up or down since I last looked at it, but the point being, I'm going to get a lot of training. I'm not just going to show up and be expected to do this and to do it well and to understand the ins and outs, and they put effort into culture. This is before a person has even sort of proven themselves. This is the thing that you'll hear, well, I don't want to invest a lot of energy into my team because, or this new team member because, they're new and I don't know, they haven't proven themselves yet. What does that mean? Like, when does a person have proven themselves? If I want this person to, and another thing that I will back up a little bit, people will say, I don't want to invest in my team because they might, I've had this experience where I train them and they quit. Okay, but you have people that work for you today. So you did train some and they stayed, right? And this is the key. If I train them and they stay, that makes my life easier. If some quit, then they quit. I'm not doing what I'm doing for the, so maybe I train 10 people and 2 quit, or 3 quit, or if I really got things backwards, 5 quit. Fine. But if I hadn't trained anybody, I'm going nowhere fast. And they're all going to quit, because chaos does not retain people. So the key point in all of this being, if I look at what the other industries are doing, they're investing, the ones that are winning are investing tremendously in growing and retaining their teams, building culture, empowering them to understand what to do, empowering them especially to solve problems, which is a big one. Little things like, I've seen a family of 5 walk out the door over a little, $20 balance issue.
Right.
Like, that is unacceptable. Like, you cannot have that. But again, if you didn't teach your team what to do, you didn't empower them to do it, and to fix that before they had to go and get the next person to come and get involved or come and get you out of the procedure to solve the problem, like that makes no sense. That should be trained, right? So again, understanding the value of training and investing in your people, even though they don't owe you anything, they could quit. Yes, they could quit, but they might stay, and many of them will. And if you invest in people, they do stay. Right? They appreciate the investment and the desire to build culture, and that sticks people. We can talk about this for a long time. This is a 2-day event for us. Mm-hmm. So maybe I'll leave it there. But
So just a personal question then. I'm not sure if they still offer the program, but I know that outside companies could hire for a day, 2-day Ritz-Carlton trainers to come in and train their team. I'm not sure if they still offer that service or not. Would you encourage dental offices that really want to level up to seek that sort of service?
I would say absolutely you should be seeking to level up. Now, having actually done that training,
So did your team do the Ritz-Carlton training?
Ritz, Disney Institute, we've kind of seen it all. And we've read their books, and we've studied out what they teach, how they teach it, and that has informed a lot of how we teach our program. Right. So that is actually baked into our training around these items. So specifically patient experience and category of 1 workshop. There are other areas where we've gone through. So one thing that I like to do when we're building training, let me just give people a little bit behind the scenes here, is I don't look at, okay, this is what they're teaching, so we're going to teach that. I look at, what are they teaching, where did they get it from? And I like to continue swimming upstream to, where did they get it from, but where did they get it from, where did they get it from? And then you find, okay, here's the sort of the theme, here's the initial training or the thinking around this, because that helps you then to frame it in a way that I can directly apply to dentistry. And that is what informs kind of how we look at not just one company, we look at across the board, because there are probably 1,000 people that can adequately train on customer service, which is basically what we're talking about here. But it all comes back to like 0.1 degree differences from one another. They're very similar, right? So if you take a kind of a basket of these and you say, okay, what are the key themes and how do I apply this to a dental office? It's actually fairly uncomplicated to do it, but people don't do it because it seems like, well, I read this book, I just don't I don't understand how to do it in my office. What does it mean for me on Monday with my team? Right. How do I build my next team leader meeting or team meeting in total? And that's basically what a lot of our training looks like for practices. It's taking all those other things that are out there and making it, here's what I do, 1, 2, 3, ABC in my practice.
Just as a supportive, in one of our job interviews, one of our questions is, have you ever shopped in Holt Renfrew? Have you ever slept in a Four Seasons hotel? And some will say, yes, I have, and either way, or some will say, no. I go, okay, great. But when you hear those names, what visions come to your mind? Mm-hmm. And they describe, and I go, great, because this is the way we run our practice. This is the type of clientele we see. And so it's a very, very high-touch situation. So we try for our office just to, right off the bat, tell them this is what we're aiming for, the highest denominator, not the lowest.
Mm-hmm. And that's a really good point you bring up. And your practice is one of those like top 0.1%. I would argue that for every practice, aiming for that is still something that they should aim for. Well, my practice is not like yours. We don't have the same, clientele. Yeah, but if you were to operate your practice with that mindset, you would become magnetic in your market. Right. And it would change the game more than you can imagine, right? I mentioned that startup practice in the previous episode. One of the key things that they did was they took the principles that we teach from a customer service perspective and they implemented it perfectly. Mm-hmm. And that became magnetic for them.
That practice, I watched your interview with the owner. Mm-hmm. I've gone on their website. It's obvious he had a lot of dental training, but exceptionally impressive, and obviously showed that he worked with you for a year before he even hit the ground running, because beautifully designed, beautifully executed, team looks top notch. Mm-hmm. There's not really any areas you could say, well, they could clean this up a little bit. There's nothing that they haven't paid attention to.
Yeah, it's an obsession with excellence, but the team has it too. That's the key, right? Is to not just say that I want that, like in your case, your team has that too. Mm-hmm. It's not that you're just, I'm as the owner, I'm obsessed with this, and my team is just like, they just don't get it. Right. You get this a lot. When I get to a place where I have brought them all along by giving them the training, investing in them, and you've invested heavily in the team that you have, right? They didn't just get there because they showed up that way, right? So if everyone looks at that from that perspective and says, how can I build my team so that they see the picture that's in my mind as clearly as I see it, then things change dramatically.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Always very enlightening. And I'd like to thank our viewers for listening, watching. Be sure to subscribe to Brush Up's email alerts on Spotify and YouTube to be notified every time we post a new episode. And please remember, keep brushing up.